be around people that are going to hold you accountable. And accountability really isn't about, hey, you're not doing this. Accountability is checking in and say, hey, you said you wanted to do this. Are you? Hey, are you doing this over here? Hey, you said you weren't going to date a guy like that. Hey, you said you really hated this type of job. Hey, you mentioned the other day that you were going to do this, this, and this with your resume. Have you done it? Have that around you.
Welcome to Fear with Christine Spratley. Living like a head in charge, the podcast where Christine says fear, questions everything, and takes bold action. Christine Spratley is a former professional boxer, nanny, and 29-plus year corporate warrior turned founder of HBIC Advisors, where she is a public speaker and coach. She's been saying fear her whole life, many times without even realizing it. So tune in, spread the word, and get ready, because this isn't about aging with grace. It's about aging with mischief, audacity, and having a damn good story to tell.
Hubs, ladies, welcome back to Fuck Fear with Christine Spratley, living like an HBIC. How are you HBICs out there today? This is going to be kind of a quick segment, so maybe you're picking up the kids. I'll try not to cuss if they're in the car. Maybe you're running late, and maybe you're dropping off the kids and running into the work. But this is about hacks. I'm following up on the whole idea of breaking the myth and busting the myth of readiness. And I'm going to tell you some things that literally, because what I don't like is we go and we talk about this and then I got to figure out how to do stuff. I love me a good cheat sheet. I loved Cliff Notes back in the day. I want to know how you fix the wheel and I can fix it and make it better. I do not like, inventing things up. So this is your hacks for doing this, filled in with some of the stories and where I've used them. But first of all, I'm going to start on a little note about I have most of my entire life suffered from depression. So when I say fuck fear, some days me getting out of bed and living is just an act of courage. That was my life for a long time. And so when I say take action and you're ready and to, do, some days for some of you, and some of you right now may be in that spot where it is literally, I can't pull the covers over my head. And so I'm going to tell you a story. So I was in one of those frames and those periods, and it was minute by minute. And I am a high functioning person outside in this world. I was making great money. I was working for a Big Four. I had tons of clients doing all the things I needed to do, but I was really suffering emotionally and mentally. And literally what I did was I would go, okay, I am going to take the covers and put them off my head. Okay, now I'm going to push them down. I would put one foot out on the bed, on the floor. And then I would get up and then I would go and I would take the dogs, because the dogs had to be fed and they had to go outside. So I would take them out. And what I noticed when I did that, and we'll have an episode on depression and my experience with that. But what I noticed when I did that, when I did the next thing and I focused on the next action, I didn't focus on the day. Notice I didn't say I took the dogs out, came back, and then went to work. I mean, it was literally just boom, 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 boom. But when I did that, I got different energy. When I went outside, the dogs had energy. The sun was out. I felt different. It wasn't like I had a burst of energy, but I felt different. So some days, that little step is really a huge leap. That little step. So when you do that, own that. Take credit for that. And say, hey, that's a good one today. So again, when I'm talking about these things and doing these hacks, it's really about making it very practical and livable for me. Life's a contact sport. Put on your pads and play. I need real life Like, I work in the real life. So some things that worked for me. Tell somebody you're going to do it. And I have a story about this. I have my coach is Lynn, and she is this red-haired Jewish lady from New York, and funny as all. It's just funny. And I was wanting to be a speaker. I was still working at Deloitte, but I was wanting to be a speaker, and so I said, women in manufacturing, because I'd always spoken on the stuff in my industry. I was a subject matter professional in my industry. So I would always speak about site selection and being a consultant and negotiations between companies and governments and this, that, and the other. And what I really wanted to do is I wanted to speak on things that mattered to me, which were women in business and women, kicking ass and owning ourselves and that. And so she said, well, why don't you find opportunities to do that in Deloitte and in the environment there. And so I came across, Deloitte was a member of Women in Manufacturing, and they were looking for speakers, and I came across a speaker call. So again, this is tell somebody you're going to do it. And so I told her I was going to do it. So what that did was it meant she was going to ask me about this every freaking time. Did you fill out your application? Did you do it? What'd you hear back? And so I knew this call was coming up, and I knew I hadn't done it. And again, because it's that right before, I have all these great things, but I don't execute. And I'm just not ready. And so I get on the call because I'm not a liar. I very much believe in my word. And so I told her, I said, yeah, I put in the application and I hadn't done it. Lynn, I hadn't done it. It's the first time she's hearing this. I hadn't done it yet. So as soon as I got off that call, I put in the application. Now, what she didn't know is the application was past due. So I was really in a world of hurt. But what happened, long story short, is I told somebody, I followed through on it because I knew that I had to, because I wasn't going to lie to her. I wasn't going to forever lie to her, because technically I'd lied to her. But I did it. I told someone, tell someone you're going to do something. Tell them what you want to do. Not that you want to do them. I get away from what. Tell them what you're going to do, even if it's small. And don't just tell like Jimmy down at the store or your girlfriend who's a flake. Tell someone who's interested in you, who's going to be like, hey, you told me you were going to do this. Did you do that? How'd that go? Have somebody that's invested in you. And if you don't have somebody who's invested in you, find somebody. Find somebody. That's a whole nother issue or episode that we can talk about. But so tell somebody what you're going to do, that you're going to do it. And if you want to take that next step, put dates and times around that. Again, you can always change your mind. But put it out there. Put that stake in the ground and say, this is what I'm going to do. The other thing is write it down. And I'm going to tell you a little story. You've heard me say this before. The book, Breaking Your Own Rules, or Break Your Own Rules by Mary Davis Holt and 3 other women. It is a great book. And it's kind of like a workbook. As you read through it, you actually have assignments. And one of the things was, and this is an assignment that if you really want to see where you're at in your life, we talked about this a while ago, about checking in. And finish the sentence. If failure's not an option, and then write down what it looks like. And for me, when I finished that sentence, one of the very first things that I wrote was, I will be speaking on stage in front of thousands of people. Now, this is a person who, at that time, had told herself, you are a horrible speaker, who literally I could hear, I don't know if anybody else has had this, but I could hear my voice crack, my own voice crack as I was speaking. And that is really frightening on stage with a microphone. I remember doing a speech at the Raleigh Chamber, and I was doing a presentation on site selection and risks and things clients look for. And I was sitting in the back and I was calm. Everything was good. It was good morning. Got in early, sat in the back. So I said hi to Adrian and Michael and, Ashley down there. And then I don't wear an Apple Watch or a Samsung Watch or anything like that. And this is a specific reason why I don't. It had my heart rate on it. And everybody's piling in, and I'm meeting people. I've said hi to people. I know these people. These are people that I, work with all the time, blah, 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 blah. And I started noticing my heart rate going up. And then they get up, they do introductions, and they greet them, and my heart rate's going up. And I'm just, blah, 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 blah. And literally, by the time I got up to speak, I was literally shaking because I was so nervous. Now, what's funny is everybody came up to me and said, oh, you did a great job. I didn't even know this and blah, 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 blah. But I tell you that because I had told myself, and with no factual input, that I suck. No one ever went up on stage and said, you need to come off of there. Please stop talking, Christine. So I didn't have that. And yet I had all of this negative stuff. But when I wrote down, if failure's not an option, what am I doing? And I wrote down that I would be standing in front of thousands of people on a stage speaking. Now, what I immediately did, this is the truth behind that, but I immediately did after that, shut that book down, turn that page on that little notebook, and we looked at other things. I did not even realize that I had written that until like a year and a half, 2 years later. But write it down, put it on paper, speak it out, get it out there. Again, we can change our mind.
Great leadership doesn't start with a title. It starts with bold action. Christine Spratley works with high-performing teams that include anything from boards, councils, and project teams to cut through the noise, craft clear strategies, and most importantly, implement them. No fluff, no endless planning cycles, just real, fearless execution. With humor, practical insights, and a fearless approach, after working with Christine, leaders will step up, take action, and make shit happen. Book her now at christinespratley.com.
Third thing, be around accountability. I can talk myself out of anything and into almost everything. There's a problem with that, though. Usually what I talk myself out of, I should be doing, and what I talk myself into, I shouldn't be doing. So what I do now is I be around accountability outside of my head. That's part of writing it down. That's part of telling someone. I always talk about Tribe HBIC. I talk about it when I speak. I talk about it online. I talk about it just as much as I can. Get your tribe. Get your tribe. And there should be, a tribe isn't all just women. You should have some men in your tribe. We need some moles out there on our side, giving us input. But be around people that are going to hold you accountable. And accountability really isn't about, hey, you're not doing this. Accountability is checking in and say, hey, you said you wanted to do this. Are you? Hey, are you doing this over here? Hey, you said you weren't going to date a guy like that. Hey, you said you really hated this type of job. Hey, you mentioned the other day that you were going to do this, this, and this with your resume. Have you done it? Have that around you. And it's not this judgment. It's just because, again, but have those people around you that do that. The next thing is celebrate it and own it. I don't think I celebrated enough. I know I didn't celebrate enough. And when I talk about that is, I like to think of it is, okay, I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to celebrate, or we're going to go out tonight and celebrate. And it's like, no, just for me, and I do this a lot. You're going to hear, this is a non-paid commercial for Fat Boy ice cream sandwiches. And I celebrate. I have one or two, or sometimes five, it just depends. But I celebrate like when I first did my first podcast, we had some fat boys. And just because it was done. But then what else I did was I owned it, and I set it out, and I sent out a text to people, and they were like, and I got some funny stuff back. This is a little side note, and we'll go into this in a new episode, but I'm 54, and last year, and I'm adopted, youngest is 16, but I'm adopted, found out who my mother was, my birth mother, found out I had a brother at 54. Never knew I had a brother. Met my brother for the first time, and via Zoom. And we haven't met in person, but we're still doing that. But he was somebody that I texted yesterday, and I said, hey, because I told him, I said, I told somebody I was going to do it. I told him, hey, I'm going to do this podcast. I'm going to record it. And then when I did it, I celebrated, and I told him, I said, hey, and he sent me back this great, funny, picture. And, but again, celebrate it, own it, and then have people around you. Those people that hold you accountable should be celebrating it with you. The next thing that I'm going to give you a hack on is bite size. Do bite size stuff. Me, this is just kind of I don't know what it is. It's my alcoholic brain. I kind of blame it on my alcoholic brain. I want more. If one is good, I take 5. If I have a non-alcoholic drink, I drink it like it's water. I mean, it's just what I do. And so I have to remind myself, I did this challenge, and it's called the I Love You Challenge. And if anybody wants to know about it in detail, email me at cspratley@hbicadvisors.com, or go to my website, christinespratley.com, and you'll be able to get me there, or LinkedIn, or anywhere else out there on the social world. Media world. But what it is where you look in the mirror, and I remember the challenge originally is you look in the mirror every morning, and you say, I love you 3 times, and you say, what are you going to do today to make you happy? Well, of course, I don't follow rules, so I made it something that I could do, which was I look in the mirror and I say, I love you, and I go, what is going to do to tickle your heart today? Because I think I need to be more childlike and just have some joy. It's not, I'm going to go meditate, or I'm going to go, no, I'm going to do something funny or fun that makes me laugh and giggle. So I was doing this challenge, and so I called my friend Rose, and I told her about it, and we were going to say, okay, so we're going to do this, okay? And at first it was like, okay, we're going to do this every day for 2 weeks. Or for a month, I think it was. I'm like, all right, well, let's bite size this down. Let's do it twice a week for 2 weeks. And when you get done doing it, I'll text you and say, I did it, did you? And if anybody knows me or has worked with me, there's a lot of challenges I do, and I encourage you to have a buddy that you do them with and just text, I did it, did you? And so we did that almost every day. And again, it was just two times a week for 2 weeks. That was all we had to do. And we ended up doing that for almost, like, I think last time I looked, it was like a year and a half or something crazy. And even today, it's not the challenge, but we'll still say, hey, I did this, or did you? Or when we talk about something. And so again, bite-sized pieces. And I got that from Atomic Habits. It's a great book to really just break it down, because you're going to do things that you have success at too, because you're going to enjoy it. And so it's like, yeah, okay. Well, if I only have to do it twice and I end up doing it 3 times and I feel pretty good, then that's like another fat boy for me. So game on. The other thing is, I do this a lot, and it's sometimes, it may sound like I'm like when I was a nanny and I'd coax the kids into doing something, like eat your broccoli, here's some cheese to put on top of it, and it tastes great. But give yourself permission to change your mind. Everything you start, you can stop. I don't quit, I take rests. Okay? So give yourself permission to change your mind. And tell people that. Say, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it for this long. I may change my mind, but I'm going to do it today, or I'm going to do it, whenever. And the last one that I'll leave you with is, and I mentioned this earlier about your tribe, find people that celebrate your little leaps like they're huge, like they're their own, that reminds you how far you've come. You are not the woman you were a year ago. You aren't. There are parts of you that are completely different. You cannot physically be that same exact woman. You have lived a year. And celebrate that woman. And have women around you that celebrate who you are and how far you've come. So again, ladies, you are enough. You can do this. These are hacks. Make it small. Go out there. Write it down. Tell somebody. Live out loud. I have a group of women that I meet with on Tuesday, and the name of the group is, Run Until Apprehended. And that was something that I told them to do, or gave them the name, and they chose it. But I like to add on that because it's me. Run Until Apprehended, preferably with scissors. Go out there and tear it up. So, ladies, those are your hacks. Until next time, Tubbs.
Thanks for tuning in to Fear with Christine Spratley. Living like a head in charge. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, tell her what topics you want to hear, and share this episode with someone who could use a pantry full of boldness in their life. Remember, life isn't about aging with grace. It's about aging with mischief, audacity, and having a damn good story to tell. So show up, take action, and keep saying fear.